1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue podcast soundcheck. Live show, Friday show, Royal Blue podcast. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's the Friday show. It's the Merseyside Derby preview show. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we have Joe Thomas. Joe, how are things? All good?
All good, thanks.
Quick turnaround from yesterday's show. You still keeping the spirits high after Wednesday?
I am. I listened back yesterday to the show just to make sure we had one more hit. I've got to admit, I got to admit, and I'm sure there are lots of people who clocked onto this yesterday. The amount of times I said, and I just it's like Sean Dyche says it all the time, and I'm forever transcribing Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
And there's always, and I just noticed yesterday it crept into my conversation, a lot of my answers. So I'm going to try my best not to do it today, but
It's difficult.
it's hard.
I've had feedback on that in the past, and it's difficult because I think it's just like a normal phrase to say, as you're transitioning from one sentence to another. I think, it's like, I don't know if it's a Scouse thing. I know you're obviously maybe not from Liverpool as such, but I don't know. What do you think on that?
This is
one?
an odd start to the pod,
yeah.
I always say, I mean, I watch back and stuff and I say, I'm just thinking there's Dyche infecting, as you're going to be talking about outfits.
I was just wincing by about 20 minutes, just thinking, because obviously some of my answers are quite long anyway.
Detailed and comprehensive.
Yeah.
How are things, Gav? Anyway, all good?
Better.
Did you watch the podcast?
I watched it yesterday. Excellent.
The spirits were certainly high.
Plenty of views this week on the pods. Notice Monday. Excellent.
I mean, high fives are getting thrown around and everything. I mean, and that's what an Everton win does to you.
Yeah. And let's hope we're doing that on Monday.
Yeah, and you were out last night. A little bit rough today.
I felt better.
You have
in life in general. Yeah.
But obviously, a win against Wolves perked you up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I know we spoke about it yesterday, but it was a much needed win, wasn't it?
It really was.
I'll tell you what, and 4-0 made it even better, didn't it, in terms of the goal difference as much as anything else, and getting the crowd back, with the team.
Just gives everybody a chance, doesn't it, going into Saturday? I think the pressure was in danger of overwhelming everybody, I think.
Yeah. Wasn't
it? And that would have been a really disappointing note to enter the final derby at Goodison.
Yeah, the tone of this pod would have been different if we'd not got a result on Wednesday. I think looking at tomorrow, ever optimistic as fans in a different light, army after the back of Wednesday, and the fact that they shipped a few goals, haven't they, recently away from home. So, as we discuss.
I was going to say, before we get into, obviously, Merseyside Derby previewing, I was going to give you the final word on Wolves. So, just to emphasise on the point then, I don't think it was an expected, well, not an expected win. I don't think it was an expected 4-0 win, regardless of whether it's 2 own goals and set pieces.
I've seen him play against Bournemouth on Saturday, and I think I said on the pod on Monday, their defence is woeful. Yeah. So, actually, their defensive performance was as I expected, really. The good thing for me, and Dyche talked about it in this press conference yesterday, is the basic things that we've done well, say last season, that we've not done well this season, like set pieces, so on. We actually got right on Wednesday, and we were a threat, and we looked all the more effective for it, and that was reflected in the scoreline. And that was the most pleasing thing for me. We got the basics back that we've not shown enough this season, and that's what you need to do for tomorrow, don't you, at least. But it was just it was a good atmosphere. I think there was a few murmurs before the game, wasn't it, about empty seats and stuff, which didn't come to fruition. And it felt like a good game on the lights and a good win. And it just gives us I think people are probably feeling slightly different about tomorrow than what they were on Monday. And I think that's testament to the Wolves' results and performance, albeit against a team that defended like Everton have defended on occasions this season, and it was a good fixture to have in the circumstances, and we took advantage of it.
Okay, well, there's the final word from Gav on the Wolves win. As mentioned in today's podcast, today's show will be dominated by the Merseyside Derby and how Everton can try and come away with a positive result. We'll also give our team selections and predictions. If you watch yesterday's show, Chris Beasley went for a positive 1-0 win. What do you think about that?
Why not?
No, I'm just,
Why not? I mean, it's the last game, isn't it, Goodison? Do you think that it'll affect the atmosphere tomorrow with it being the last game at Goodison? You know, in terms of will everybody be even up for it more than what they would normally be
I
up
think
for
it's
just a derby?
just normal.
Yeah.
Personally.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a little bit more on the line?
There's always a lot on the line when you play Liverpool, I think.
I think the fact that they got the win in April was huge. That was I think the line I used in my match report was exercising the demons, and I think if they hadn't got that, the danger of going into this game knowing that a failure to get a win would represent a failure to win in the last 15 years of home Merseyside derbies. I think that I just said didn't I? I think that has also taken a little bit of the pressure off. But hopefully, there's no doubt that the crowd will be up for it, and those players will have every opportunity to harness what's in the stands, and we know how powerful that can be. They've just got to make sure they take advantage of that. They've got to start like they did back in April, haven't they?
I think there'll be more on it tomorrow because it's the last league derby at Goodison, and hopefully the players...
I don't think it'll be for the players, though. I think it'll be for the fans, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think you might... Speaking to people, maybe getting there slightly earlier than what they would normally do, just to cherish the last league derby at Goodison on the occasion.
There's a danger that it could become too emotional. I mean, if we lose, it's obviously going to be the,
You don't want to overheat, do you? And we have been tended to do that in derby matches in the past. You need to keep it calm and controlled. So we'll see.
That is why Wolves' win was so important, though, isn't it? Because a lot of the sting of the tail of if a defeat was to happen, had they not beaten Wolves, and then it would be 2 wins in 15 if they didn't win tomorrow, and had they lost to Wolves, it'd have been in the bottom 3. If they'd have gone into the bottom 3 and then followed that up with another defeat and all the questions that there would be around the manager and everything else, and obviously those questions still exist. The result against Wolves doesn't make any, like I said yesterday, doesn't make the conversations and the debates that we're having about standards and performance wrong across the past few months. But what it does do is it just gives everybody a little bit of a respite, a little opportunity to reset, approach this derby with a little bit more freshness. It's not as much on the line in terms of that table. And also for us to approach this coming set of fixtures, I think, a little bit differently, because all of a sudden there isn't that inevitability that Everton end the year or spend Christmas in the bottom 3, which I think a lot of us were starting to kind of get resigned to.
Yeah.
Which, as a result of that win the other day, it's a 5-point gap to Ipswich and Wolves. So, even if Everton don't come up with good results over the coming weeks, and in some respects there's reasons to be positive in the sense that they actually played to Dyche's favour a little bit, because his style of play becomes a lot more acceptable to a lot more people, I think, against these sides. And in the corresponding fixtures last season, they beat Liverpool at home, they beat Chelsea at home. They were really controversially denied a point at Arsenal on the last day of the season in a game that Arsenal wanted to and needed to win. Now, I'm not going to take too much hope from the back, because we all know what we've witnessed over the course of the opening months of this season, but just gives everybody a chance just to change that approach. No matter how bad Everton do over the coming weeks, one of Ipswich or Wolves needs to probably win 2 of their games, and they're not winning games at the moment in order to overtake Everton. So the dynamics have changed quite considerably just because of that win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think great that we got the win against Wolves on Wednesday. I think that a point, maybe even 2, over the next 4 games is a bonus for me. It's an absolute bonus because I'm not expecting anything really. I'm just going I'm just letting you know my expectations, and I think we could potentially get beaten every single one. Let's face it, Chelsea and Arsenal are flying, Liverpool are flying. City are probably the team right now you'd think you'd probably get something against, but it's going to be a very difficult month, and then you've got Forest afterwards. Well, let's stick with the derby. First off, though, obviously, if you only just joined us now, give this video a thumbs up and drop us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And obviously, as mentioned, we are live, so please interact and get involved with the show. I'll read out your questions and your comments. I think first bizarre, if you want to call it, point to address, Joe, is there a chance that this game could be postponed because of the weather? I know you were looking into it. I know that's been muted, there's a slight chance that this could happen. What can you tell us on that first off?
Well, as it stands, the game's going ahead.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. I think it would take a lot for it to not go ahead. But the weather warnings are there, aren't they? They've gone up to amber, and I think that that's gusts of up to about 70 miles per hour. And then for tomorrow, I think the Met Office has now turned it to a red warning for areas that are very close to Merseyside, if not actually on Merseyside.
Is that a warning for us? Red warning?
Close to... right,
blue warning, yeah.
Sorry.
My days. Oh. So the reality is, the club have had a meeting this morning, and I think the emergency services will all keep an eye on things. But the expectation is the game will go ahead. They will take another view on that tomorrow morning. Obviously, if things get particularly bad, Walton is a tight, compact residential area. So safety will be paramount. So there is always that chance, but I wouldn't start making alternative arrangements anytime soon. I think where it could have an impact is things like the 1878. I think we all know that they've got big things planned for this game tomorrow, as they have for Chelsea as well. Obviously, if you're holding flags in those gusts, it can be quite dangerous. So I think they'll have to take a view onto what scale they can do things tomorrow. And it'd be a shame if the weather prevented them from being able to, but obviously the safety is paramount. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. So as it stands, keep a watching brief. It does look like it's gonna be very, very stormy tomorrow. So we'll all have to be a bit more careful. But as it stands, I don't think there's going to be any problems. So.
Wonder when we play Bramley Moore.
Sorry?
It's when we play Bramley Moore.
What, with the weather?
In future, there's obviously a lot windier, isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting one with the wind.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other big story or the big headline around Everton of the last 24 hours is, I'm sure most people who listen to this will have seen the footage of the water pouring down the steps of the new stadium. And I've spoken to the club about that today, and essentially everything's pretty reassuring. The operator siphonic drainage system at the new stadium
all over the place, this podcast, isn't it?
I know, I know. But essentially, it hasn't quite been completely fitted yet, and therefore, it's not in operation. It's not fully activated, so you get the chance of the drains overflowing a little bit like they did yesterday in severe rain. They will be finished very soon because the construction phase is coming to an end, and because we're still in the construction phase, obviously some people have seen some of the water going down into the concourses. Well, there's not really anything there to cause any lasting damage to. It is still a building site at the minute, so don't worry by what you're seeing. It's all to be expected. And I know that as part of that, this is what brought me onto it, there's also some questions about the roof, and some people, I think there's a suggestion on that video of holes in the roof. It's a perforated roof on purpose, and that is because of wind mitigation factors, because they know they're going to have to deal with high winds at that stadium because of its location on the coast. So all of that is perfectly normal. So you'll safely be able to go to games at the new stadium. They have, believe it or not, they have taken bad weather into account. Yeah. So that's reassuring.
Good. I know we've gone off the subject, but it is interesting, the difference at Bramley Moore, the climate-wise, to go to city centre, I know I've worked in the city centre donkeys years, especially at the front, it's
just open, isn't it?
Microclimate, isn't it? And interesting stuff.
No, I did have that on my agenda, to be honest, so I was going to ask Joe about it because I know he wrote a piece on it. I'm going to have to shout at him now if he doesn't speak into his mic. He's getting dropped from the next pod. Otherwise, people.
There's a game tomorrow, Should we start talking about it?
All right, do you get nervous ahead of Merseyside Derby?
No, not really. Not anymore.
Too old for that now?
I think also as well because where we are compared to Liverpool. I think I get nervous if we're winning. It doesn't happen very often, but I think too old as well. Too old and gnarled about such issues. But I remember years ago, pumping before the game, even just as a spectator and stuff. Yeah, it was just it was frightening.
I think it'll be a special one tomorrow, but obviously that can go either way, can't it? It could be a nightmare, but it could.
We touched on it, and I'm just hoping it's a 12:30 kick-off is not ideal, isn't it? I wish it'd been an evening game, but I think there is a sense of occasion about tomorrow. There's been lots of press this week about it being the final game at Goodison, and I know Chris was saying there's something riding on it, isn't it? his piece
Yeah.
that people are not necessarily aware of, and I think that hopefully that'll be reflected in the atmosphere tomorrow. So even in derbies, 12:30 kickoffs can be a bit low on atmosphere, can't they? But I'm looking forward to tomorrow and that. Everybody be up for it.
No, definitely. Am I right in saying that obviously the last win, which was last season, that wasn't originally a nighttime kickoff, wasn't it? Wasn't it the game postponed or rescheduled for another reason, and it was changed to a nighttime?
Possibly.
Am I right in saying that?
I can't remember, to be honest.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking at the time when it was rescheduled, that has definitely played into our hands, and it was more than likely to be a nighttime
Perhaps somebody
game.
watching knows actually.
Yeah.
It's a good. I know it was like it was the first Wednesday, the 24th of April game since the Bayern Munich game at Goodison, wasn't it, as well, which made it even more significant.
Well, they were running out of weeks and available dates to play, so we obviously fitted on that Wednesday night. Just, you've obviously mentioned Chris's piece there. I provided them with that stat, by the way. So if you don't know, do you know the stat, Gav?
I do know it, yeah, I'm aware of it now.
So for context, so there's basically 130 years of bragging rights at stake for the last ever Merseyside Derby at Goodison Park. Obviously, we know there could be a cup game, but League Derby, I guess. There's been 119 games played, and there's been 37 draws, but both teams sit on 41 wins. Isn't that, Joe? I mean, that's 130 years of history. That's insane, and it's kind of come down to this on the last ever Merseyside Derby at Goodison.
Yeah, it is. It'll be really interesting.
Your nerves are going now, because I can feel it now.
I'm wondering if that changes Gav's perception.
I think it's I know we're ahead we went one ahead in league games at Goodison. I mean, it's worth remembering here that, as people outside talk about, people always think, don't they, that Liverpool have always been the dominant force on Merseyside just because of recent history. Well, 50 years now, isn't it? But Everton had won more derbies than Liverpool in the first 100 years of derby matches. 100 years after of Everton's history, we won more derby matches than Liverpool. So they only overtook us, thinking about 1982, 83. So there's a certainly right in the history when they about Liverpool have always been a dominant force. They've got a great record in derbies. The gap between now and derby victories between us and Liverpool has only really occurred over the last 20 years. We've had a terrible run, haven't we? For most of the time, Merseyside football history, we've been the dominant force in the fixture. That may happen again. But I think the other thing as well people forget, which I think is relevant for tomorrow, is they've all been tight games at Goodison, haven't they, for about the last 12 years. I think there's been 9 draws. We've only lost 2. One of them was the last minute winner or injury time winner by Marne.
That was a skill of that one.
Yeah, so the games have been very, very tight. A lot of goalless draws there tomorrow. And that's the type of game I think Dyche likes, doesn't he? The tight game, maybe not pretty to watch, being a bit ugly. I think
that's what they've got to play for.
That's what that is do that tomorrow. Is basically what Derby's been like at Goodison for more than a decade now. Is not a lot between the two teams. Not great watch, but actually most of the time we got something out of it. Draws all last season a win, and I'm hoping for that tomorrow.
I mean, we'll talk about Liverpool a little bit then. How do you see Liverpool, Joe? They've obviously had a fantastic start of the season, flying. What have you made of Arne Slot since he's come in and taken over from Jurgen Klopp?
I mean, I've seen this repeated so often on social media, but they've had their greatest manager in generations. It looks like it was almost like he was holding them back, isn't it? It's crazy. It's crazy. You think you luck out like they have in the last few years, and then the transition, you think, oh, could this be a big drop off? And in fact, it's the complete opposite. They get better, which is obviously very tough to watch. I think they've been started the season very impressively. Slot looks like he knows what he's doing, doesn't he? And he's handling a lot of difficult situations very well. And they've overcome Manchester City, champions of England, overcome Real Madrid, the champions of Europe. Everton go into this as very, very big underdogs off the back of that. But that doesn't mean to say that there isn't hope for Everton. Like Gav says, the gulf in quality has been there for a long time. That hasn't necessarily made its way into being reflected in the results that have happened at Goodison, and we saw that so clearly back in April when Everton were just the better side. But one of the most satisfying things about that game wasn't that Everton won; it was that they deserved to win. In fact, Idrissa Gueye was phenomenal, and they just asserted themselves. They bossed Liverpool, and they just blew them away. And they just need to do. That's going to be their best chance to do something similar tomorrow. I think that an area we can take some hope from is they're conceding goals. They are letting in goals at about, they're letting 2 to Southampton, they're letting 3 to Newcastle. So, there is a degree of vulnerability there. Obviously, it looks as if, it doesn't look, they have the ability to, if it's an end-to-end match, they probably fancy their chance of being able to outscore most teams, and Everton have to be wary because even with the clean sheet that they had the other day, like I said yesterday, Jørgen Strand Larsen had a lot of very big chances at very big moments in that game. So I hope that doesn't get glossed over in the the post-match debriefs and work at Finch Farm that started yesterday. So there is an opportunity there for Everton. If they can make it into an emotional affair, that probably suits them, because if it becomes a football match, well, we can see whether we like it or not and whether we want to admit it or not. There's obviously a gulf in quality. But if Everton can make the most of the occasion and make the most of the fans and the atmosphere and things like that, well, we have already seen how powerful that can be on so many occasions, including in this fixture last year. So that's what they've got to try and do.
I mean, since the international break, and obviously returning from the international break, Gav, Liverpool have had a hell of a run. Obviously, they've had the victories, but they played some really tough teams as well, and they've come through that period. But I don't know whether you watched the game on Wednesday. Obviously, you were obviously watching the Everton game, but tough game against Newcastle to travel all the way up to the northeast, and then to not get the win after going 3-2 up.
Yeah,
I'm trying to clutch at straws here, Gav. I'm trying to
I know what you're saying, and I believe, like I was talking to my mate last night, he said it was quite an even game actually. So both teams probably deserved to draw. But my mate was also saying about what Joe was talking about there, that I think they conceded 8 goals in 4 away matches, something like that, Liverpool, which is quite a lot for a team that's top of the table by some distance.
Someone in here says, though, they've still got the best defence in the league.
Yeah, that's fine, but just talking about the last the last few games.
Is it going to catch up on them? It could be.
And obviously, Alisson, who thought he was maybe a fault for one of the goals last year, is obviously a better keeper than Calais, though Calais has done well, but he's vulnerable, as you saw on Wednesday night. And so I think it's just an interesting game. Far more optimistic than what it was on Monday. But I think the key thing tomorrow is going to be Salah, isn't it? Is how we mark Salah, who's probably in the best form of his Liverpool career. I think he scored in 7 consecutive Premier League games. Last season, Mykolenko, sadly got his injury last season in the Derby match, didn't he? Which I still don't think he's recovered from. Really marked Salah well.
He did it in both games.
And yeah, absolutely. And and I think that's going to be the key battle tomorrow for me, is whether Everton can keep Salah under check, which we did last year, and as Joe said, at Anfield in the first game. But the problem is, compared to April, is Mykolenko's not as effective and probably not as fit. Salah's probably in better form, and I think opposition have tended to target that left flank of the last few games, and I think it's going to be a tough battle tomorrow for us to keep Salah in check. I was thinking, would you play Young at left back tomorrow rather than right back?
No.
We're getting a lot of questions on what people would do with the team selection and stuff like that.
Why wouldn't you play Young left back tomorrow?
I just think that, one, for all I just said about Strand Larsen's chances the other day, they looked a more effective defensive unit the other day. It looked like Branthwaite's perhaps growing a little bit more into the season. Mykolenko maybe growing a little bit more. I think Mykolenko is at his best when he doesn't have to think about going forward at all. And actually, I think when I think of Mykolenko, some of his best performances have been against the likes of Bukayo Saka, the likes of Mohamed Salah, the likes.
But he's got to mark somebody.
When he's got to mark someone, and that's his job. So I think that I would do that. Young's played quite well on the right. Obviously, there's a chance that they target Young because that's what sides have done in the past. I know Young's had a very good season. He got sent off against Brighton for the fouls on Karol Matoma. He got sent off for the fouls on Luis Diaz in the Anfield Derby last year. So the chance that they might target that side and try and overload as well, because there is still a difference. One of the reasons we've been so frustrated and so disappointed about the start of the season is because of the quality of the opposition that Everton have played. It feels like they've missed so many opportunities to do well, and I think that we have to kind of just remember that as we go into these fixtures, that some of the performances that we've been pleased to see have still come up against weaker sides. So that doesn't necessarily mean to say that all these tactics will necessarily hold water against some of the better sides in the league. But I think tomorrow I'd probably just I'd just stick to what Dyche is most
I
comfortable
mean, we won on
with.
Wednesday. The reason I asked that is because of like Mikalenko's fitness. But take on board what Joe's saying. He's a bit Tony Hibbert. He's a bit like Tony Hibbert. Tony Hibbert was, I really think he was underrated, Hibbert. But as a right back, he was most effective when he had the left winger to mark just for the game, and he'd always marked them out the game. And Mikalenko may suit him actually, ironically enough, at marking Salah. It's just Salah comes in, from obviously the right wing on his left one. You've got a right-footed left back. You can sack that better. But I do take on board Joe's point that actually we've got a settled defence that kept a clean sheet on Wednesday. Why change it? But that still doesn't alter for me. That's a key area tomorrow. If we win that battle or keep Salah in check, I mean, was it Julie mentioned in the press conference yesterday? He's been involved in 75% of Liverpool's Premier League goals.
Yeah. He's the talisman, isn't he?
Yeah. So if you keep him in check, we've got a chance. If Salah is allowed freedom in his current form, it could be damaging for us.
The other reason is, again, it's a factor in why I'd have McNeil on the left midfield as well, just to kind of help out on that front as well.
Yeah, and you'd be hoping to, you tend to be playing tomorrow, I would imagine, won't he? And that can leave space, but also gives you somebody to mark when they're in possession. So that their right flank, their left flank, our left flank, their right flank is key area tomorrow, both in terms of Mikalenko and Salah, but McNeil and Alexander-Arnold. And that's a battle we've got to win, really, to stand a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've had a comment here. Mikalenko was better 1v1 than Young, so we should mark Salah. I mean, without being too sarcastic, Liverpool could target any particular area in the team and find success with it. I just think Young has suffered in the past when he's been targeted down that right flank, and they might target him down there. I think Mikalenko, still struggling for form, maybe fitness, we don't know, but I don't think you can change a defence after a clean sheet or a 4-0 win. So regardless of whether it's Liverpool or not, I think we're giving away our team selection here, but that would probably be my back four.
Same as Wednesday.
Yeah, same as Wednesday.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think just try your best to stop Salah. I just don't think you're going to be able to stop him completely. You're going to have to get a little bit lucky. I think he misses a lot of chances as well, Salah. Let's not forget that he gets a bag full of chances every single game. It's why he scores so many goals.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the criticisms that we aim at our own, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That he might get one chance, maybe even two, during the game, and he'll miss them, and everyone will be like, "Oh." But
that's what strikers do, don't they? We had the worst goals against SG ratio last year. Haaland, scores loads of goals, missed a hell of a lot of chances.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and that's it. But the problem with Calvert-Lewin's not scored for 10 games, is it?
Well, he was unlucky.
And he's been unlucky, hasn't he?
Yeah. Wednesday.
And it would be nice for Dominic to get a goal tomorrow, for more ways than one, a bit like last April. But it's I mean, you can obsess a lot, can't you, about what they can do to us, but we've got to do, as Roy Keane says, that's your job, isn't it? And I think taking a bit of confidence from Wednesday, I think we look better balanced than we thought, Joe, on Wednesday with the change round. I know McNeil probably didn't play as well as what he has been on occasions, but
his deliveries were excellent, though, weren't they? I watched it back. There's corners and set pieces, and I completely agree that he was poor, in play.
Yeah.
But we won that game because of the set pieces.
Yeah, I just think we look better balanced with the left footer on the left hand side and the right footer on the right hand side, to be fair. But we'll wait and see what he does tomorrow.
I mean, one thing that Slot has done well for Liverpool, and when he's going to be able to take this into the game, Joe, is that he's got a big enough squad where he's able to rotate. He hasn't had to do much other than just pick his players based on fitness. I'm going to give me team away here, but I'd probably pick the team that beat Wolves on Wednesday. I'd be very surprised if Slot picks the exact same team that played against Newcastle on Wednesday. So how many days is it? 3-4 days since we played. It's going to be 3-4 days since we played Wolves. It's a 12:30 kickoff. That's probably the only concern that I've got, is that if we played the exact same team, Liverpool are probably going to have more fresh legs.
I think that's actually probably that could work as a positive for Everton, because the reason that Slot might make, or one of the reasons, the factors that will influence Slot making changes, is the fact that ultimately they didn't win in midweek, and having trailed twice, but then gone on to hold the lead for a little bit. I do think that there was a degree of frustration and disappointment about that result. Obviously, they're flying, and a point at Newcastle isn't a bad result. Certainly not in the context of the lead that they've opened up at the top of the Premier League. But there was a degree of deflation and frustration, I think, in the aftermath of that. So some of the changes may be to try and address that little blip in momentum. In contrast, Everton have gone and got one of their most important wins of the season. Well, they've only won 3 in the league this season, so they've all been very important. But that was a confidence-boosting win, and if the players can't take the boost and the momentum from that game and harness that into bearing in mind how much of an emotional occasion this will be and how big an occasion, how much of a privilege it is for them all to be part of it. I would like to think all those players will be more than up for it and going into it in the healthy frame of mind and with hope and optimism and confidence that they can actually take this fight to Liverpool a little bit. So,
just back to us then, Gav. You talked about the balance of the team with McNeil on the left and Dyche on the right. One glaring admission in that balance that you mentioned there was Doucoure.
Yeah.
We spoke about last week of whether he should be brought back in as the number 10. How did you think he fared on Wednesday? Because a lot of, he just divides opinions so much.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I was thinking about it. I said last week that's his best position for us. I think it makes us more solid in midfield. I think his physical presence as well probably helps Calvert-Lewin a little bit. And I'd certainly wouldn't have him playing in front of the back four as a sort of defensive midfielder. I think if he's going to play, he's got to play in that role. And I suppose the thing is, if the answer is playing Doucoure as a 10, what's the question, isn't it? It's probably more a reflection of our weaknesses as a squad. Is if he's the answer at 10, it probably shows up the inequality within the squad, doesn't it, really? And we're sort of putting him in there because we can't play him anywhere else. But I do think there's advantages that accrue from that, and you saw that in abundance on Wednesday night. He's a bit clunky, isn't he? At this age, yeah. But he's effective, and he was effective to a degree on Wednesday. And that, if you're going to play him there, I think Calvert-Lewin just looks a bit better when he plays there. I think his physical presence assists him than if you've got like a sort of classic number 10, as it were, playing behind him. And I'd certainly keep him there for tomorrow's game, because last year we had a lot of. I mean, they were vulnerable, weren't they, throughout the game from free kick. I mean, free kicks just inside their penalty area, inside their half. Sorry, went in direct into their penalty area, and hoping for more of the same tomorrow. And so you've got to play Doucoure, I think.
I've got a quiz question for you both, so you can get it. You've probably just seen it because it's on.
No, I'm not seeing it. No.
There we go then. When was the last time Everton won in the Premier League when Doucoure didn't play?
It's not happened under Dyche, has it? I believe.
Oh, you're right on that one, yeah.
Crystal Palace.
Oh.
Was it Crystal Palace and the Lampard 3-0?
Yeah. Yes. Wow, I can't believe you got that. Well done.
Well,
another high five.
We'll take a high five for that.
There we go.
Joe, the weather expert, and the
look at this.
The Everton. Let's start out. Yeah.
Well done.
It had to be on the Lampard because he didn't play him, did he? So
yes, that was in the days. I think Anthony Gordon
played well that game.
Well.
3-0 against Palace. Best performance.
Oh yeah. So we played well. Yeah. I mean, what would you read anything into that, Joe? You know, was it? I mean, he's probably played in a lot of defeats as well. So he probably has.
I mean, like we discussed it yesterday. It's what Dyche is most comfortable. He's got square pegs to round holes in his view. I think for those attacking roles in midfield, I don't think that Ndiaye is necessarily best suited on the right. I don't. I would like him in a central position, but the problem is that you sacrifice what you try to gain from an attacking perspective. You sacrifice from a defensive perspective, and Everton just aren't good enough or solid enough, I think, to be able to do that at this stage and against the Liverpool side. So I'd keep it the same for tomorrow. I don't think that Ndiaye is a solution on the right necessarily, but what I do think is that, I mean, the opposition have been very, very good, but Andy Robertson's given away a fair few, a few silly fouls in important games and in important areas over recent weeks, giving away penalties against Real Madrid, hasn't he? And
Southampton, was it?
Southampton. So we have to kind of be pragmatic, and this is an Everton side that hasn't been able to play through the 10 men of Brentford and several other, or even Southampton. So the chances of them being able to play their way through Liverpool in the form that they're in are pretty slim. The best thing about Wolves the other day was the return of the set-piece threat, because it was so crucial in the Derby win last season, and it could be a defining point in this one. And I want Everton to try and win as many free kicks in as dangerous areas as possible. So I think in this case, I probably got Ndiaye on the right just to try and buy a few free kicks off, a few cheap free kicks off Robertson, and then hopefully McNeil and Tarkowski and Brantwaite and Calvert-Lewin can do the business with what follows.
Yeah.
Do you like that stat, Gav?
It's the Doucoure one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you read into anything like that? What I would say is that it just shows that he's fairly effective when he does play.
Or the balance of the team's better.
Yeah, well, we said that.
Not
And
just
we have to
him.
give credit to Doucoure as well,
Yeah.
because I mean it might be getting a bit of criticism now, but that survival season, the second half of that season when Dyche came in, he was brilliant. He scored some really, really big, important goals. Obviously, there was the Bournemouth one, but those goals he scored at Brighton as well. And then he carried that form into the first half of the next season after. He got some really big goals again in that half of the season. So since he's had the hamstring, Everton's bad form at the back end of it started after the Burnley win coming in December of last year. Well, that coincided with Abdoulaye Doucoure's hamstring issues. In his double hamstring, he came back for a game against Villa, I think it was, and got injured again. Is he the same player since then? Perhaps not. Obviously, he's got a little bit older as well. So, and I think that has hurt Dyche because it's left him with a question in an area that he thought he had an answer to.
No, I completely agree, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one, is he technically gifted? No, he's not. Is he physically what he used to be probably late 18 months to 2 years ago? No, he certainly isn't. But what he does provide us is with something, that enables us to win football matches, certainly against the lower place teams. And, we can't forget that. This is someone who scored probably the most important goal in Everton's history. I just don't think anyone should forget that. And for all the criticism that he faced, whether it's justified on the night or what, we should just remember those things.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's for his end of his career at Goodison, isn't it? What he did against Bournemouth 18 months ago is not really, you can't bring that forward to picking the team for tomorrow. What I'd say is, in that role, he's probably the most effective of the options that we've got. And it does give us something that we don't have when we've got a sort of, as I say, a typical number 10 behind Calvert-Lewin. And for that reason alone, I think he should be playing there, really.
Just on the three that you've mentioned who should be playing behind the striker, Gav, you can look at it another way. It also gives us a couple of options off the bench if things aren't going well.
Yeah.
Harrison obviously came on. Didn't have his shooting boots on
cameo Wednesday.
Lindstrom obviously could come on. What I'm saying, if it's we haven't had that option. I don't feel like we've had that option to bring someone on to change a game.
Yeah, rather than bring Doucoure on off the bench. Yeah, I know.
Or just a better.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I get that. Though I think Broja would be. Or did you have that conversation yesterday? Broja or
AB.
Yeah. He was decent when he came on, wasn't he, on Wednesday? I was thinking, if you come a striker coming back to fitness, a really good start for you in terms of, I think Chris come back when it was a 4-0 against a defence that had been awful all game. That's probably a very advantageous way to start your career. So I wouldn't necessarily look into his performance level and saying, oh yeah, he's great. You have to take account of the opposition and the state of the game. But he's obviously got something about him, hasn't he, Broja? And I know Dyche was saying yesterday when he brought him on just to get a bit of experience. You would imagine tomorrow that if we have to bring a forward on, Broja will probably get the head of Beto, I would imagine.
Yeah, I should think so.
And that's an interesting scenario, isn't it? But so we have got a few more with him coming back. We have got a forward option that with a bit of quality coming off the bench. So I think I'll keep the same team basically.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to team selection. Just read out a few comments first before we do. So Mike Cosgrove, with Liverpool being away in Newcastle and the early kick-off, we need to get at them early on and engage the crowd. Don't just sit off. Is that for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just get at them?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, yeah.
I mean, we've said we have a slow start anyway, regardless of who the opposition is. We always struggle, don't we?
We started pretty well, though, in a few games we've not won. Against West Ham, we were
started well against
15, 20 minutes.
Well against Brentford, started well against Man United.
Yeah. So we have started. Yeah, we have started well, haven't we, in games, and then dropped off, really. So tomorrow, honestly, start well and then continue that for 90 minutes, which we've not done.
Danny Church says, morning guys, I'd keep the same team as Wednesday, but drop Doucoure. Play McNeil as the number 10 with Harrison or Lindstrom down the side. It's not really the same team then, is it? No, fair enough.
I think Lindstrom's been disappointing. I think he's been ineffective from what I've seen. After an incessant performance in Southampton, the Carabao Cup, where he showed a bit of pace and got behind the defence a couple of times, he's not done that at all in the Premier League, and he's down the pecking order for me in terms of options.
The Blues, we only won the last derby because Liverpool turned up assuming they'd win and couldn't be bothered. That won't happen again. A bit harsh, I think.
That's very harsh on Everton.
Yeah, thought we did very well in the last.
It'll be a different Liverpool turning up tomorrow. I think that's the thing. You know, when comparing it to last April.
Sorry, I'm just trying to go through some questions. We'll do team selection while I just try and read through some more questions that I can read out. So, Gav, you kind of just suggested there that you're going to go for the same team. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Would you play any differently to how we played on Wednesday?
As Joe was saying, there's an option of swapping the two wide men back to NJ left and McNeil right is probably an option. But no, keep the same team. The take on Wednesday was the total mystery about why Mangala's not played the previous two matches.
Well, we addressed that yesterday. He's had a couple of good games and then kind of been dropped off the face of the earth, or at least to the bench. Now he's just got to stay in.
Totally mystified, really. And we said that on the podcast why he's not played, and you saw that on Wednesday. I thought he was excellent, got his goal, and we look a little bit more creative in the middle and can hold the ball better when he's playing. And I think hopefully that will be the same tomorrow.
Gavin Cunningham says, any news on the stadium flood? Gavin, if you have to re-listen to the very start of this podcast, has Joe provided an update?
Yeah, nothing to worry about, basically.
No, not to worry about, and there's an actual piece on that if you'd rather just read that on the Liverpool Echo website. Joe, team selection?
Yeah, I keep it the same for a lot of the reasons we've already discussed. And like I said, I'd keep and die on the right just to target Andy Robertson. One slight vulnerability in a very good Liverpool side that's in very good form.
Danny Church has now changed his mind. Obviously, we persuaded him. Keep the same team, just Doucoure's pass and lets him down.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment. Fair comment. Yeah. Predictions then. We'll finish off with predictions. Do you want Joe to go first?
No.
Go on then.
I'd take a goalless draw tomorrow. There's been a lot of draws, I'd say, in the last decade at Goodison, and I'd kill for a goalless draw. If as much as I think it keeps the 41 each stack going.
If you're killing, I'd rather you kill for a win.
I know, yeah.
If you're going to go and kill, you might as well kill for a win, Joe. Hey, Gab, sorry.
Yeah, I know, I get that. But that shows you what a difficult game Everton it is, really. You haven't I don't tell you what I'll do for a win. But anyway, yeah. And but no, I'm going red, and literally, and
He's blushing.
Yeah, I'm going. But no, goalless draw for me, which I'd take. To be honest with you, but I'm just hoping that one final memorable derby.
It would be nice.
Yeah, at Goodison. I think the Everton fans deserve that, really, without sound patronising. I just think that would be a great way to bow out in terms of league derbies at Goodison. And if you want to start, last time we won, I'm going to ask you a question. Last time we won 2 league derbies in a calendar year?
Oh God, definitely wasn't the 90s. That wasn't the night before the 90s. Yeah. We're going back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be
even before I was born.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah. 1964 was the last time we won 2 league derbies in the calendar. We've not won 2 league derbies at Goodison in the same calendar year since 1932. And that was a lot of time before I was born. So that's a bit of history tomorrow. That'll be, be good.
One thing that we don't want, Joe, is before we get your prediction, is who's the referee? We don't want like a controversial decision or VAR decision, do we? I'll tell you what, if you tell us your prediction, I'll find out for us now. What are you going to go with?
Probably going to go 1 each, I think. I want to go 1-0 Breuer with a late winner coming off the bench and just doing something mad. I think a fully fit Breuer could potentially cause this Liverpool defence a few issues, but obviously he's got a long way to get to that. Yeah, I think 1 each. I'd love Everton to win it.
Yeah, they've just tended to be really tight games, haven't they, in a decade at Goodison, and I certainly want that tomorrow. Is it
Mike Oliver?
Is it?
Mike Oliver, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just because the only reason I brought up the referee is because this morning I produced the Liverpool podcast with the Liverpool writer Paul Gorst and Theo Squires, and his prediction was penalty, Salah 1-0. And I just thought, you know what, it's probably just nailed on that's going to be the case.
But really, Everton deserve. If there's a big call in this game, Everton are due a big call in a derby, aren't they? Like, I mean, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, the Canati.
Well, last year.
Yeah, I got the goal disallowed, didn't we, last week?
The goal disallowed.
Oh, yeah, the Canati one.
Then the game before there was the Canati one. The Connor Cody disallowed offside, which was really, really tight, wasn't it? Van Dijk should have got sent off in that. That was awful on Amadou and Arne, wasn't it? Anthony Gordon could easily have got a penalty
at Anfield.
I think it was off Joel Matip.
The list is endless.
You just, like, I'm just there.
Clive
just trying
Thomas
to...
is going to get mentioned at some point.
It has. Dave Max already mentioned
like,
no.
But surely it's time for Everton to get it, isn't it?
A dodgy decision in our favour in the derby.
Graham Paul, Don Hutchinson, hit the back of his head and rolled
I think the
in.
one Joe mentions there that was 100% incorrect was the Canate one. That was a sending off, but as referees do. In big games and big teams.
0-0 at that point.
Yeah.
And Everton were fine, weren't they?
Referees in big games will always favour the bigger team. That's just the psychology of refereeing, unfortunately.
Right, and all the excitement. What did you say for the scoreline?
So one each.
One each. See, I'm so torn now because I was really negative going into the Wolves game. And I think I said 0-0, but we won. So I don't know whether it was a bit of reverse psychology. I'm really superstitious, you see. So I'll go 0-0. Same as you, Gav. Try and at least.
But would you kill for it?
Probably. I'd definitely kill for a win, maybe not as draw.
Yeah, if I'm in the Echo News pages on Sunday, we've had the goalless draw, don't you really? But I think that Dan will be reporting on me. But I
don't want to be sitting next to you tomorrow in the press box.
I'll literally be on the Blood Red podcast, wouldn't I? But no, I think it's a game we can get a result of tomorrow. And I'm far more confident about it than Wednesday before Wednesday. I think that's a massive result in our season. Yeah. I think we'll look back. I'm hoping we look back on Wednesday in the Wolves game as a massive result. In the same way as beating Burnley at the end of last season gave us that good run of 4 or 5 wins. I'm hoping the Wolves game tomorrow gives us that little breathing space from the bottom, takes the pressure off a little bit, and gives us something to work with for the rest of the campaign and these big games coming up, and hopefully can continue on that tomorrow against Liverpool.
No, definitely. I think our win and, dare I say, their draws changed the outlook of the game slightly. Whether that lasts, I don't know. Whether we can go in there and get a result, whether it's a draw or a win, we will see. But we'll finish off there, Joe. Any final thoughts before we do?
That's it. No, stay safe tomorrow. I'll bring a tin if you can. It's the food banks, fan supporting food banks, be collecting again. So aiming for a big collection tomorrow, if it being a Merseyside Derby. So if you can spare anything, then by all means, please go and support that.
Yeah, and obviously stick with the Liverpool Echo's coverage for the game. You and Chris are both there tomorrow, and you'll be doing your post-match videos. Hopefully, some good positive reaction following on from the Merseyside Derby win.
How Dyche would that be, by the way? Like to have how Dyche to as difficult as it's been for the past few months to then come in and end up winning like back-to-back home Merseyside derbies.
Yeah,
like the internal conflicts in so many people's minds as they try and sum up his reign. It's just going to be off the scale if he does that.
Yeah, if he wins, he'd have more derby wins than all his previous 7 predecessors as Everton manager combined.
It's like what you said though before with Doucoure. I'm saying cut him a bit of slack. You're saying, well, he'll be judged after his career. Sean Dyche, if he wins tomorrow, keeps Everton up, history will judge him.
I suspected. I said that at the end of last season.
I think. Yeah. I mean, I think history will always judge Sean Dyche more kindly than he is in the present.
Keeps us up.
Yeah, because when we remove the emotions from it and then the exhaustion and the tiredness and just how difficult it's been to watch this season, when we're out of that in a couple of years' time, I think everyone can only look back and go, what a job he did to keep Everton up for those 2 seasons. The debate at the minute is pushing on, isn't it? So
I know it's probably for a separate time, but I think there's a big difference between Everton fans' attitude to Dyche and the job he's done than people from outside the club's attitude to Dyche.
Yeah,
and I think there's a big gap there. The truth probably sits somewhere in the middle of those 2 opinions. But I find it interesting of all the managers I've seen at Goodison is the biggest diversion between how he's looked at by Everton fans and how he's looked at by non-Everton fans. I think Dyche has got the polar opposites. I think that no other Everton manager's had really.
Okay, well, we'll call it there for today's show. Don't forget to buy Gav's book.
Yeah. Thank you very
description.
much to everybody who came to the St Luke's on Wednesday for the meet and greet, as it were, and sign people's books.
Nice.
Plenty of custom, which was excellent.
Great.
And please continue buying them. Going selling like hotcakes, I believe.
Good to know. Good to hear.
Yeah, and thanks everybody here for pushing it and stuff. And Chris for doing the interview, it was excellent.
Absolutely. Okay, well, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, drop us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy your day. Let's hope we can enjoy the weekend. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Joe Thomas and Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.